the savings and loan business that we were in. We had a business that intermediated money. Went out and got it from depositors and lent it to people who wanted to borrow on a home.
Anything could change at Berkshire, but the one thing that won't change, going back to Q2, if you'll, is we will always have a lot of cash on hand.
We perform about like we were doing 30 or 40 years ago. I mean, we read annual reports. It isn't the speed of information really doesn't make any difference to us. It's the processing and finally coming to some judgment that actually has some utility. That is, that it's a judgment about the price of a business or a part of a business, a security, versus what it's essentially worth. And none of that involves anything to do really with quick information. It involves getting good information, but usually that
we believe in having cash, and there have been a few times in history, and will be more times in history where if you don't have it, you don't get to play the next day. I mean, it's just it's like oxygen. It's there all the time, but if it disappears for a few minutes, it's all over.
It's not. We're not looking for needles in haystacks or anything of the sort. We like haystacks, not needles, basically. And we want it to shout at us.
But we will always have a lot of cash. We don't. Some of our companies have bank lines. I don't know why they have the bank lines. We're better than the banks, and we'll give them the money if they need it. But the local bankers have been calling on them, and they need something to do. Everybody else has bank lines, so it's harmless. But there's no reason for any of our subsidiaries to have bank lines. Berkshire is stronger than the banks.
The answer about a buyback is that we generally have felt that market conditions that would make Berkshire attractively priced are probably going to make other things even more attractively priced, because we think our shareholders are more rational than the shareholders of many companies. It's more likely that we will find some wonderful business at a silly price than we will find Berkshire at a silly price as we go along. So that tends to eliminate repurchases. But it doesn't rule them out. But it explains why the circumstances will not arise very often where repurchases.
The Federal Reserve in the United States can do whatever is necessary. They've got all kinds of rules about can do this or that and this and that. One time in the 1980s, Paul Volcker, who was a very honest man, said to me, and I said, what are the limits of what you can do? And he said, he was a very unusual guy and huge, looked down at me, said, we can do whatever we need to do. And that's true, and that's what happened in 2008 and 9, and that's what happened in 2020. And
Bill Zeckendorf Sr., I think, was probably the first one to do that with Webb and Knapp back in the late 50s. I still have those annual reports, and he would announce, like to 8 decimal places what the intrinsic value of Webb and Knapp was, and he did it right till the day they filed for Chapter 11.
There was a note, just a few lines long, from a fellow that was a friend of mine and that worked for Berkshire a good many years ago. And this was on February 25th, the day before the thing. And he said he'd now become CEO of Allegheny Corp. I'd been following Allegheny Corp for 60 years. I read their annual reports. I had 4 big file drawers full of it because it was an interesting company.
Beware of people that give you a lot of numbers about their businesses. I mean, in terms of projections or valuations or that sort of thing.